Okay, so you've prepared a portfolio of evidence that you can turn up at the interview with. You've researched the client. You look $1 million. You've got in your car and you've pitched up at the interview. Oh, by the way, if it's a long way away, stay the night before, please. So it's the start of the interview. You walk in the room, you sit down, and pretty much every client starts every interview with the same old thing. Tell me a bit about you. How are you going to respond? Well, the first thing to remember is 99.9% of the clients that we work with have had no training, so that's the question they're going to ask. And it is a pivotal moment in the meeting, because in that moment, one of you is either going to take complete control, which is not something either of you really want, or it's going to become a quality exchange of resources. And remember, the biggest complaint we get from clients is they'll say the candidate didn't treat the interview like a selling situation. And if you ask them what they mean by that, they'll usually say the same old things. I wanted him to come in and take control of the meeting, or some of it. I wanted him to probe me for my needs. I wanted him to prove to me that his skills could solve my problem. And at the end of the interview, I wanted him to close me to, if not offer him the job there and then, which is very unlikely, but to at least agree a time and date when we'd meet for a next stage. So think about it. What are you going to say if it's a selling situation? The best way to think about it is, what's your elevator pitch? You've got to give that interviewer a very quick, brief elevator pitch. And a good way to do that is, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Toy Story, where you've got all the toys on the shelves, Buzz Lightyear, Woody, Bullseye, and each one's got the key features and benefits of why you would buy them. So Buzz Lightyear's got expanding wings, and he says, to infinity and beyond, and all that other stuff. If I was to put you in a box and make a toy out of you and sell you in the shops, if I had to make a you doll made by Mattel and sold at Toys R Us, if Toys R Us still exists, what would it say on the side of the box? That's your elevator pitch. And you have to go back to the very basics of selling. And actually, the irony of often the candidates that do the best in the interview game are the ones who approach it in the least sophisticated, most simple way. So the first thing I want to encourage you to think about is, what's your USP as a candidate? What are the features and benefits of you? And what is your personal, your unique selling point? What's your value proposition? You know, you spend your life thinking about the value proposition of what you're selling for your employers right now. But actually, the most important value proposition you need to know is, what's your value proposition? So for example, if you've sold to the blue light sector for 17 years, then your value proposition, or part of your pitch, is, well, there isn't a decision maker I don't know in the blue light sector. If, for example, you haven't missed target in 5 years, then part of your value proposition is, my name's Bill Smith and I haven't missed a target in 5 years. So I'll give you an example of a good pitch for the point at which they say to you, tell me about you. Remember, it's a selling situation, so we've got to be punchy. I'm Mr. X, I'm 43 years old, I'm married with 2 kids, brackets, feature. So it's great for you to know I'm hungry and motivated to succeed, brackets, benefit. I've been in sales now for over 20 years, feature, and I've developed a lot of experience in the finance sector, feature. So it's great for you to know I have a lot of strong contacts to help me get a deal done quickly, benefit. Now, I'm conscious I could sit here all day talking about myself, and I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for in this hire, and let's work out whether we can help each other. And that's the killer bit. I'm going to do it again. I'm conscious I could sit here all day talking about me. I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for, and let's work out whether we can help each other. And at that point, you've taken a little bit of control back. You don't want to take all the control of the meeting, because that's going to be overbearing. And nobody wants to hire an overbearing, aggressive salesman. But at that point, the candidates that can do that make the meeting much more collaborative. much more like a situation between a salesperson who is selling a solution and a customer who's buying a solution. So then at that point, if you can do that, the meeting will follow a simple structure. Now there's an irony, and I've talked about this earlier on in the session, about how actually sometimes the candidates that tend to do really well in interviews are the ones who are used to quite tactical selling. Because remember, whilst it's a strategic procurement, it's a tactical sales process. But the meeting should follow a simple structure. Open, elevator pitch, take a little bit of control. Probe for needs, match and prove that you can solve the problem, and close. And then at the end of the meeting, you should be able to work through the meeting, match and prove. So at that point, the client starts talking. They'll usually start with, okay, well, they'll start talking through the spec. They'll start talking through their needs. They'll start talking through what they want. And at that point, it's your job to take each need and cover it with evidence. So if they say to you, I'm looking for a guy who can prove to me he can hit his targets, you can say, I thought you'd want to talk about that, Mr. Customer. What I've got here is some documents that demonstrate my achievement against target over the last 5 years. If the interviewer says to you, I'm looking for a guy who can generate activity himself, you say, I thought you'd want to talk about that, Mr. Customer. What I've got here is a list of key wins I've made over the last 2 years. The ones I've highlighted in the document are all ones that I self-generated. Let me talk them through with you now. In fact, I've actually got a case study that demonstrates how I self-generated that opportunity and how I got in with that CEO at a very early stage in the campaign. Would you like to talk about that? Yes, I would, Mr. Candidate. Great. And then at that point, you might say to the client, what else are you looking for in a candidate? And he might say, I'm looking for a guy who understands the public sector. I thought you'd want to talk about that. I've been selling into the public sector for the last 17 years. Let me explain to you some of the clients I've won and some of the things I've learned about the market. Because what we don't want here is a chat. Oh, we had a good chat. I can tell you now, when I take interview feedback and the candidate comes on the phone and says it was a good chat, I might as well just put the phone down. He's US. He's on US, as we say in recruitment. U/S. Unsuccessful. He's failed. He's blown. If it was a quote-unquote good chat, he's blown it. The candidates that do well are the ones that come off the phone and they say to me, good interview that, I understand exactly what he's looking for, I think I've got a very good match to his skill set, he believes I have too, and we've both agreed to meet again next Tuesday at 10. That is driving forward the meeting. So remember what we're doing. We're going to open, we're going to pitch, we're going to take a little bit of control, not all of it. We're going to probe for needs. We're going to prove that we can solve each problem individually. Now, the guys that do really, really well here, they will open up a nice notebook during the course of the meeting and they will draw a line down the middle of the page. And as they go through the meeting and they probe the customer for his needs, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to tell you how to probe a customer for his needs. As they probe the interviewer for his needs, they'll write on the left-hand side the requirement. And then on the right-hand side, when they've covered it and discussed it and demonstrated to the client that they can solve that problem, they'll put a tick by it. It's a very powerful analog mark that shows visually to the customer, the interviewer, that you're solving their problem for them, that you're helping them buy that revenue generation solution.